Okay, so yeah, so I was saying Kansas is the 9th highest tax state in the union. That means there's 41 other states where you can move and pay less in taxes. The sales tax on food to me is crazy, okay, because it's really a tax on the poor. I mean, because rich people don't really have an issue paying some sales tax on food. You know what I mean? That's not a problem. But who does that really impact the most is poor people. I mean, it's crazy. To me, and they've talked about doing away with the sales tax for food, but they haven't in the state of Kansas, okay? I just have put together a list here. Now, obviously, guys, we're getting a new president, okay? We have a new president. We have a new Congress. And so some of this is going to change, mostly this one here, this federal income tax, okay? And we use what's called a progressive income tax. So the more you make, the higher percentage you pay, okay? And when I was talking about taxes the other day, I put some numbers up here. Trump had actually lowered taxes, you know, when he became president. So the highest tax bracket was 37%, okay? It used to be 39.6 before Trump. President Biden is putting that back in. That's what he wants to. Now, obviously, that has to pass Congress, okay? So we'll see what happens. And really, that is for the people that make over $400,000 a year. Okay, so just depending on how you think about things, will tell you whether, you know, hey, these people making over $400,000 a year, they can afford another 2.6% to be taken out of their check. Our nation's in debt. We need more revenue, and that sort of thing, right? Okay, so this is really from 0%, okay, to it'll be this will pass, I think, through Congress, okay, to 39.6%. As far as the progressive income tax goes, okay. State income tax is flat in Kansas, 6.5%. And then your local taxes like property taxes and so forth, that varies based on where you live. So like if you live in the Mays school districts, your property taxes are different than they are in the 259 district, you know, Wichita city limits. And that varies. And so sometimes they'll do what's called a mill levy, which is a temporary rise in property taxes. We did this about 10 years ago in Wichita, which I think was a really good idea. They asked the public schools in Wichita, they said, what is, besides classroom sizes, like how many teachers per students per teacher, besides that, what's your greatest need? And our public schools in Wichita said athletic facilities. Because most of our schools in Wichita are really old. You know what I mean? You go by North High, you know, look at East High, right? That thing's been around forever, right? I mean, it's still kind of a cool school. I don't know if you guys have ever been in East High. It's a pretty neat school. But so you notice all the turf fields, right? So like they all got turf fields, which improved. I mean, guys, trying to take care of grass, you know, is a lot of work and it's expensive. Trust me, I know. Okay, I do it out there on the baseball field every year. Okay, it takes a lot of work. If you turf it, then you don't really need maintenance on that. You know what I mean? And then you see the new gyms, right? We got new gyms at North. We got new gyms at South. We got new gym at High. You know what? That was a $380 million tax increase on property taxes for the people of Wichita. And that passed. That was on the ballot. It passed 51 to 49. Okay, they also built the new Southeast High School and the Northeast Magnet School. Okay, I was at dinner the other night. You guys know much about Northeast Magnet because I really didn't know anything. They have like 800-900 students. Now, obviously, they've been totally remote. This guy that used to work with my wife is now teaching over there. And so I, you know, peppered him with some questions. You know, they don't have sports at Northeast Magnet, so you play sports with the school district you live in if you go to Northeast Magnet, okay? And it's kind of got a theme. I forget what the theme was as far as their academics go towards. I forget what it was, but yeah. So anyhow, you guys, sales tax is more expensive in Wichita than it is outside of Wichita, which is why you may want to go out to Cheney, to Lubers to buy a car, because you pay less sales tax out there than you do in the city of Wichita. Does that make sense? So if you're buying a $50,000 vehicle, sales tax on $50,000 is quite a bit. You save some money out there, right? Yeah. Okay. So, and then excise tax. You guys know what excise taxes are? There's another name for these. Sin taxes. So they put an extra tax on things like alcohol, tobacco, things that they want to discourage you from doing. The government taxes it more. Now, when you talk about a tobacco tax, do you think that who's more likely to smoke? Poor people or rich people? Poor people. Hey, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. So when you talk about tobacco taxes, sin taxes, excise tax, who's that a tax on? It's a tax on the poor. Again. Now, they're trying to discourage people from smoking, which is okay. Government promotes certain values through the tax code, yes? So also with the tax code, one of the things is if you are married and filing jointly, you will pay less in taxes than if you are shacking up. You know, like two people living together, okay? You pay less if you're married. So what does that encourage? You're going to live together? To get married. Okay? Guess what? If you have kids, we don't charge you more in taxes. You get tax credits for your kids. Okay? You get to write off some of your taxes because you have children, which makes you pay less in taxes, which makes you want to have more kids. Maybe. Kids are expensive, right? Yes. Very expensive. Kids are expensive. All right. So this is just some of the taxes. There's on every gallon of gas you buy, guys, there's tax on that. Okay. So your whole life, you're going to pay taxes. Okay. And then you die. And they're going to tax you one more time. The death tax. Now, people that don't like this tax call it the death tax. It's called the estate tax. Okay. Now, the estate tax is based on your estate, the value of your estate when you die. Okay. And if it is above a certain number, and I think that number is now around 1.2 million. Okay. Then you're going to get hit with the estate tax. Okay. Now, one of the biggest arguments against this is, yeah, I paid taxes my whole life, and now you're going to tax my descendants who get my inheritance. Okay, because it's really the children that end up paying this estate tax. Okay, but they're going to take away part of your estate. Now, these estate taxes are steep. Okay, they're over 40%. Okay, now this is there are ways around this. Okay, so when grandma and grandpa start getting old and they're like, this is why we have trust attorneys and estate attorneys, okay? So actually my wife and I are meeting with our estate guy next week because we don't have a will and we got to get that stuff done. You know what I mean? And so what's the plan for the kids if we die? You know what I mean? What do they get? How much do they get? When do they get it? Her mom and dad, when they died, they had a trust put together and stuff like that. Okay, if you have a trust, that could be like your 401k, your IRA, you know, the stuff you have in the stock market that you save for retirement, and then you die. Well, that could go to your kids. Okay, but if it's over a certain value, guys, you got to put it in a trust. Then the trust pays taxes, not you. Does that make sense? Now you're writing the check because you're the administrator of the trust as the child. Okay, if you have a bunch of siblings, your parents are going to pick one of the siblings to be the executor of the trust. Okay. So in my case, I have two sisters. My dad made me the executor of his trust. Okay. So there's a lot of laws you have to kind of navigate when it comes to taxes. Okay. Now, if you don't make a lot of money, you don't have a big estate, then you don't have to worry about this. You know what I mean? But if your parents or your grandparents own property, they own a farm. Okay. I mean, if they own, a few hundred acres, well, you're going to hit that 1.2 million mark pretty quick. So you got to plan for this. Okay. You can start when my wife's mom and dad were around. They would just like send us a check and send the kids a check because they're trying to get rid of some of that money. You can legally gift, I think it's like $15,000 a year to an individual. And that individual does not have to pay taxes on that $15,000. Okay. If you give somebody $20,000, you got to pay taxes on 5 of them. Does that make sense? So you can kind of gift that stuff and so forth. Okay. So in reality, guys, we put all this together. Depending on how much money you make, will determine how much you pay. Now, capital gains, okay, is I think I mentioned this the other day. So, like, if you're flipping houses, okay, so you buy kind of an old house for $60,000, okay, it's really beat up, and you invest $20,000 to fix that up. Now you have $80,000 invested in this house. Okay, you sell it for $90,000. You bought it for $60,000. You invested $20,000. You got a $10,000 profit. Okay, you do that 5 times a year. You make $50,000 a year. Now those are capital gains. Okay, now depending on your income, now this number is going to be new under Biden. Okay, this 39.6. So if you are wealthy, your capital gains tax is going to be higher. If you're not as wealthy, your capital gains tax will be lower. Okay, this same thing with selling stocks. If you make a profit, you invest your money using money to make money. That's what capital is, right? Using capital gain. Okay, so if you make money in the stock market and you sell that stock, then you have to pay capital gains on it. Okay. Now, the higher this goes, this may discourage people from investing their capital because they don't want to pay that much in taxes on it. Okay, so government has to be careful about this. Okay, so I was reading a little bit this morning in preparation for today, and Tax Foundation is a group that kind of studies taxes and their impact on economy, and they're saying that under Biden's tax plan, you could see negative growth in our economy because of the impact of these new taxes. I don't know if that'll be the case or not. I mean, you can't predict the future, okay? But certainly, it does have an impact on the economy, how much you're taxing people, because that means they may have less money to spend, okay? Which we are a consumer-driven economy. So when people are buying things, when people are buying new cars, they're buying new homes, new home construction, you have all kinds of jobs to create these products that people are buying. When people are not buying things, then our economy shrinks. Okay. But in comparison to other countries, okay, especially those European countries that have the very big welfare systems, the healthcare for all and so forth. Okay, compared to a lot of European countries, our taxes are relatively low because our welfare system is not as big as other countries. Here's the other one. The corporate tax, okay, in the United States was 28% for corporations when they make money, okay? Trump cut that to 20%. And the goal was here, instead of companies going to China or overseas, okay, because you can make a lot more money. What's the most expensive part of running a business is your labor costs. Employees, guys, are expensive. I am expensive for the diocese. Because remember, they pay my salary, they do my 401k. They also have to match my Social Security. They have to match my Medicare. Okay, so anytime you hire an employee, you have a lot of costs. Okay, so that's why our companies go to China. That's why our companies go to Mexico for cheap labor. So if you cut the corporate income tax, Trump's goal was to try and keep some of those businesses here in the United States. Okay, so they wouldn't go overseas. making it easy for our business to make profit, to compete, okay? Our businesses that provide health insurance for their employees. I left that one. So you guys know Boeing, right? They build airplanes, yes? The chief competitor to Boeing worldwide is Airbus. And you guys know where Airbus is located? They're what country? It's in France. Okay. Does Airbus have to pay insurance for its employees? No, because the government does. So in a way, the French government is subsidizing Airbus in competition with Boeing, because Boeing's trying to sell airplanes to China, to Singapore, to Mexico, all over the world. And they're competing against Airbus. Okay? So by lowering the corporate income tax, it makes it easier for Boeing to compete against Airbus. Okay? This is going back to 28%. Okay? If Biden gets his way. So, I know this looks like a lot, but compared to other countries, it's not really, okay? So just based on how you feel about this, now, there's two arguments, okay? The supply side argument is this, okay? This is generally what Republicans do. If you cut taxes, people have more money in their pocket, okay? What do they do with that money? They spend it, they invest it, okay? Do home repairs, all kinds of stuff, okay? The hope here is, I mean, if you cut taxes, the government's going to get less money coming in, right? But if it spurs economic activity, that creates more jobs. And if you have more jobs, you have more taxpayers, which would hopefully increase the amount of money coming into government because you have more taxpayers. Okay, that is called supply side economics. Okay, or trickle down economics. Okay, the other side is really to raise taxes, to raise revenue. Okay, that the wealthy can afford this, and it won't hurt the economy. Okay, the wealthy are still going to spend. They still have enough left over. They'll be all right. Okay, so just based on what you see here, how you feel about things, are taxes about where they need to be? They're likely to go up a little bit, especially for the wealthy. Okay, if you do Medicare for all, you guys know we're going to have to raise a heck of a lot more revenue to do something like that, right? But just generally, how you feel about things? Do you think we should cut taxes, or no, leave them the same? Or raise them, okay? Would be, if you want to raise taxes, say no, okay? All right, good? All right, this next one, against hate crime legislation. Now, I did hate speech earlier. Hate crime. All right, hate crime. Now, we used to not have this. This is really, I would say, about 25 years old, okay? And really, this spurs out of a case out of Wyoming that was kind of the poster child situation for increasing penalties for crimes that were committed out of hate for somebody's race, religion, sexual orientation, gender. I think that covers it. Okay. And the case that really drew national attention to this was a case of a guy named Matthew Shepard, who was a gay man living in Wyoming. And apparently he went into like a bar one night. And there were these two, let's just call them rednecks, that recognized that this guy was gay. Okay. They convinced him to get in a truck with them. They took him out to a remote area, and they beat him to death and left him basically hanging over a fence. This made national news. Okay, there was a lot of outcry. that this guy was murdered because he was gay. Okay. So what hate crimes do is they can increase the penalty for crimes, or they can make it a federal crime if it's a hate crime. That like a violation of people's civil rights. So like if you're attacking somebody because of their race, their religion, their sexual orientation, so forth, you're violating somebody's civil rights, which would make it a federal crime, and you could increase the penalties for those crimes. Okay. Now, let me just tell you real quick. You can look this up. All right. A journalist, a couple years after the two guys were convicted of murdering Matthew Shepard, started digging into the story. Okay, now this journalist has some credibility because the journalist himself is gay. So he starts looking into this, okay, and he finds out that, yes, Matthew Shepard was gay, but he was also a drug dealer. He was dealing crystal meth. And that the two guys who did murder him probably murdered him over a drug deal, not because he was gay. Okay. Now, did that get national media coverage? No. Okay. The guys committed murder either way. You know what I mean? So let me just throw you a hypothetical. Okay. You guys know when we play Northwest every year in football, right? They come over here. They put the T-shirt on Jesus, right? Sometimes they toilet paper, right? Where you start to get into trouble is like if you use spray paint. You know what I mean? So let's say they come over and they spray paint real big on the side of the school. Bishop Carroll stinks. Okay? In blue and yellow. Okay? What's the crime? They committed a crime, right? What's the crime? Vandalism. Trespassing, right? Yeah. Now let's change what they write. Catholics stink. What's the crime? What? Could be. But the crime is still vandalism, right? But you could make it a hate crime. Okay? So let's say somebody goes over to the mosque, okay, or to the Jewish synagogue and paints a swastika. Hate crime, right? That vandalism was committed out of hate for that group of people. Or you throw a slab of bacon at the mosque. Okay? It's a hate crime. Okay? So how many of you guys knew about these crimes before I started telling you about them? So most people that commit hate crimes are ignorant. Most people that commit hate crimes don't even know they exist. So does it prevent these crimes from taking place? Giving special protections to special groups, does that create animosity between groups of people? If these people have special protection, okay? You don't see very many hate crimes against white people, or at least charged as hate crimes, okay? There have been a few, okay? Let me give you one more scenario, and then we're going to move on, okay? You got a black guy and a white guy, okay? And they get in a fight, fist fight, okay? Which is the way we used to settle problems in this country, was with our fists, not with guns. You know what I mean? And then when the fight was over, it was over. Problem settled. Moving on. Okay? Ends with a bloody nose. Okay? But a black guy and a white guy get in a fight. Now, I don't know if any of you guys have ever been in a fight. You guys know what adrenaline is, right? I'm telling you. And I've been in really like two big fights in my life. You know what I mean? Yeah, one really. Yeah, that 8th grade thing was just kind of silly. But when I was in college, I got in a fight with a guy. I was at a junior college and in a small town in North Florida. It's a redneck town, okay? And the locals didn't like the college kids, okay? And so we're down at the river, and we got a fire, and we're having a party down there, playing music. These locals show up, and this guy, you know, he's na-na-na-na-na-na-na. And I'm like, na-na-na-na-na-na. You want to go? Okay, let's go, right? And so we went. I tell you, the adrenaline that goes through your body at that point in time is incredible. Okay, you're literally shaking because you're adrenaline. Okay, sometimes things come out of your mouth when you have that kind of adrenaline that normally wouldn't come out of your mouth. Okay, and so white guy and the black guy get a fight, and in the process of that fight, the white guy calls the black guy, you know, the N-word. Okay, and so observers of this fight, okay, he's fighting this black guy because he's black, right? But what the observers don't know is that the black guy said something about the white guy's mom, about his mother. You don't say anything about my mother. You don't talk about my mother, okay? And so they fight, and say the white guy wins. So how is the government going to determine whether this was a hate crime or not? How do they get into the head of a person to figure out whether that's a hate crime? Was it done out of hate for that race, or was it done for some other reason? They're going to have to investigate that. What are the optics? Does the media get involved? And then the media starts talking about this crime. And then there's pressure on the government to call it a hate crime. Those are reasons that people might say, hey, I don't know about these laws. Now, you may feel like we need these laws because we do have ignorant people that commit crimes against people because of those things, race, religion, sexual orientation, gender, that sort of thing. Okay, it does happen. And so maybe we do need to have extra protection for groups of people so that this stuff doesn't take place. Okay, and maybe if we publicize it, you know, the government says, hey, everybody, here's these laws. You know, you're going to get extra penalties if you do this. All right. Think you know enough about it. Think about it. You guys decide. Okay. All right, good. We're going to do some history here. Love doing a little history. Not sure if Mr. Skaggs taught you about this or not. Let's see. See what you know. We'll come over here. So yesterday, you guys all know Jory, right? Jory Faber. So yesterday, I'm a big Chicago White Sox fan. I was born in Chicago. They made the playoffs last year for the first time in like 11 years, which was awesome. So Jory tells me yesterday that he's playing catch every day after school with this guy named Evan Marshall. Because you know Evan Marshall? That sounds familiar. Well, he's a bullpen pitcher. He's a reliever for the Chicago White Sox. He went to K-State, pitched to K-State, and had his wife there, and she's from Wichita. And so in the offseason, he lives in Wichita. And so Jory's playing catch with this major leaguer every day. That's pretty cool. I like it. Where and when I want to go meet this guy. Okay, so I just found that out yesterday. Yeah, White Sox are going to be really good this year. I don't know if you care about baseball, but I'm excited. So anyway, okay, Taiwan. All right, defend Taiwan against China. Did Mr. Skaggs teach you about a guy named Chiang Kai-shek? Rings a bell? Yeah. Chiang Kai-shek was the leader of China during World War II. China was our ally in World War II. Okay, remember the Japanese, right? The Japanese attacked Manchuria in 1931. Okay, and then throughout the 1930s, they expanded into China and eventually took French Indochina down here, which is Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia. You see Thailand. Eventually, they're going to take Burma and then attack the Philippines, where the Americans are, and then attack the United States on December 7th, 1940, right? So, as they were attacking China, Chiang Kai-shek is fighting against the Japanese, and we're trying to help Chiang Kai-shek, okay? World War II ends, we defeat the Japanese go home from all these places, right? They got to go home. Okay? And so in China in 1948, there was a civil war. And the communists took over. That guy named Mao Zedong, okay, he took over China. And Chiang Kai-shek and his army, what was left of it, fled to this island called Formosa, which today we call Taiwan. Okay? Do you know about that? Okay. So Chiang Kai-shek, and guys, Taiwan, they speak Chinese, they have the same history, the same culture, but they didn't want to live under communism. So eventually, Madam Chiang, Chiang Kai-shek's wife, took over running Taiwan and then started holding free and open elections. They're a democracy there. In Taiwan, where China is obviously a communist-ruled country. Yes? So since 1950, the United States has pledged to defend this island from China. Taiwan is a friend of ours. They are a trading partner. They have a strong military. They have strong military equipment because they bought it from us. Okay? Now, since 1950, Congress has passed a resolution every year saying we will defend Taiwan from China. China wants it back. China says Taiwan is part of China, and we want it back. Okay, so, I mean, this goes back to containing communism, not allowing it to spread. And so, in the mid-90s, the Chinese were lofting missiles, doing military exercises, lofting missiles off the coast of Taiwan. President Bill Clinton sent the U.S. 7th Fleet with an aircraft carrier through the Strait of Taiwan, between China and Taiwan, right here, to say, not so fast, China. We will defend Taiwan. Okay? Now, if that happened, if China decided to try and invade Taiwan, first of all, it's going to be difficult for China. Okay, you're looking at about 75 miles of water between the island and the mainland. Okay? That would have to be an amphibious invasion. Amphibious invasions are difficult. Okay? So Taiwan would have some, the upper hand in a sense that they would be able to, destroy the Chinese as they're trying to come on shore. Okay? If the United States were to get involved in this, people would die. Now, as I told you guys earlier, we have more aircraft carriers than any other country. We would not fight this on Chinese soil, right? That would be stupid. They have 1.3 billion people. Okay? We're not going to fight on Chinese soil. This would be fought on the seas and in the air. Okay? And you can kind of, YouTube has these good things where you can compare the militaries and what would happen if, militarily. I think we would win, but we would lose ships. China has the ability to destroy our aircraft carriers. Okay? And we have the ability to destroy their aircraft, their ships, and so forth as well. But Americans would die. American men and women, mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, brothers, sisters would die in defense of Taiwan. If we relinquish, that statement that we will not defend Taiwan, well, then China has basically an open door to say, we're taking them back. What does that say to the rest of our friends in the Far East? Like Japan, the Philippines, Australia, Vietnam. It's really interesting, guys. Vietnam, which we fought in for years, 11 years, combat. And the communists took over when we left in Vietnam. we are actually closer to Vietnam than China, even though both countries are communist. Okay, the Vietnamese are scared to death of the Chinese. Okay, we've actually, our U.S. Navy is now docking again in Vietnam, which is crazy how that all comes around, you know. But is it worth it to defend Taiwan? That's a democratic nation in the Far East. Now, Taiwan does not rub this in the face. Their independence, they don't rub this in the face of China. They try not to antagonize China. You know what I mean? You don't want to tick them off, all right? But they do like to be free. Okay, they have freedom of speech. They have freedom of religion. They have free economic system, and they're thriving. They're a friend. We defend them if China tries to take it back. You decide. All right. This one's kind of interesting. It's not a huge deal, but it just kind of gets into how you think about things, okay? Against U.S. troops being placed under UN command. All right. Now, the United Nations was created after World War II. And like Mr. Skaggs, I didn't get to talk a lot about this because lack of time last semester. But guys, back in the 1990s, this is the mid-90s, okay? You remember, have any of you guys seen the movie Hotel Rwanda? You seen it? Okay. In the mid-90s, where's Rwanda here? This one is right here. Okay. In Rwanda, Africa, you had tribal conflicts between the Hutus and the Tutsis, okay, where nearly 1 million people were slaughtered. Basically, what is genocide, ethnic cleansing, okay? At the same time, in Europe, okay, in a place called Serbia and Bosnia, right here, these two countries here, in the very low part of Bosnia and Herzegovina, there's a region of that country called Kosovo. All right? There's a really good movie on this called Behind Enemy Lines with Owen Wilson. Okay? And what was going on there is Kosovo, it has a large Muslim population. And the Christian leaders there in Bosnia wanted to get rid of them. This is the 1990s, guys, okay? And so the guy that was in charge was a guy named Slobodan Milosevic, and he is a war criminal, okay? Basically, how you ethnically cleanse your country of a group of people is you separate the men and the women, you kill the men, you rape the women bear the children of your ethnicity, and you start to cleanse your country of this group of people. This was going on. Now, the United States got involved, okay, because we're not going to watch this genocide take place. Okay, and so did NATO and other people got involved. Now, we didn't put troops in, we did from the air, tried to destroy Milosevic's ability to make war. Okay, so we're taking out his tanks, his guns, and so forth, okay? Oh, jeez, guys. It was horrible. Okay, so eventually, we stopped Milosevic, all right? So the UN, now, wait a second. Did we get involved in Rwanda? No, we did not. Now, why would we protect these people here? In fact, we're protecting Muslims, okay, in Europe, but not protecting the Hutus in Rwanda. Is this a racial thing? No, it's a national security thing. You go back in history, guys. You guys remember where World War I started? Right there, Sarajevo. Remember the Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated down there? Okay, and that touched off World War I. So, because of Europe being so important to the relationships that we have, we got involved here. But in Africa, we didn't get involved. Now, the United Nations, after these wars are over, goes in with what are called peacekeeping troops. Because, listen, the survivors of this ethnic cleansing and genocide are not going to forget what happened to their families. And they're going to want revenge. You understand? So you send in UN peacekeepers. They wear that North Carolina blue helmet. They're like the mask, the blue mask you guys are wearing. Okay, they wear the blue helmet and have the blue, UN logo, and they try and stop people from killing each other. They're peacekeepers. Okay, and we have peacekeepers in lots of places. Those are two places we have peacekeepers right now. Okay. Things in Europe have gotten a lot better, okay, in the 20-some years since Kosovo, that war, okay? But in some places, United States is loved. In some places, the United States is not loved. So with the United Nations, you have multinational forces. So you have troops from the United States, you have troops from Pakistan, you have troops from India, you have troops from Russia, you have troops from all over as a peacekeeper, yes? Somebody's got to be in charge. You got to have a commander over these multinational forces. And for some places, it may not make sense to put a U.S. commander in charge because maybe United States is not liked in that region of the world. Okay, so maybe you put a Pakistan general in charge. Okay, but you have American troops as part of the force. Now, back when we first sent peacekeepers to Kosovo, you had 2 American soldiers. They put a foreign commander in charge, not an American commander. And these 2 soldiers refused to take orders from a foreign commander. They're U.S. military soldiers. When you join the U.S. military, you pledge to defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and to take orders from your commanding officer. Did you sign up to take orders from a commanding officer from Pakistan? These guys said, no, we're not doing that. And they got court-martialed. Okay? Now, on principle, do you feel those guys are right? Or if it makes the mission go more smoothly, allowing American forces to take orders from a foreign commander under UN command is okay. So this is just kind of how you think about things. Okay? All right. There's a lake that separates some of those people up there in Kosovo, a big lake. And I saw this of course, it didn't make a lot of news. I saw it on the news. They renamed the lake because they opened up trade with each other across the lake. And there's disputes over the lake. And President Trump's team kind of got involved and tried to help settle that dispute. And then they opened up trade with each other, and they renamed the lake Lake Trump. Okay. Yeah, that may not be a big deal to you, but on principle, you might feel, hey, this is wrong. American forces should only take orders from American commanders. Okay. That's up to you to decide. Hey, we got through 4 today. All right. Let me look at tomorrow. That one's easy. Yeah. What's tomorrow? Oh, not tomorrow. Today's Friday. Monday, Tuesday. I think I should get close to finishing this Tuesday, okay? And then tell you what it all means on Wednesday. Or on Thursday, okay? And then we'll move into start taking some notes. I'll put up on the module chapter 1 notes, so you have those available. I'll just do a chapter 1 module. I'll put the review sheet on there, the notes on there, and you guys will have those. I'll get you books next week, give you an assignment, get you started. I gave everybody 10 points for what we've been doing here. So everybody you see the grade in there? Everybody's got 100% in here. Congratulations. Okay, you do the homework, do that right. You still have 100% before you take the test. Okay, Do the review sheet, you get 5 more points for that. You'll still have 100% before you take the test, and then I'll grade the test. Okay. First test isn't worth a whole lot of points, so all you guys will be off to a good start in here, even if you don't do really good on the test. But then from there, you know, the tests get a little bit bigger and a little more challenging and so forth. But we're just going to roll through this. So far, so good, right? Okay, cool. See you guys next week. Have a good weekend.